I would like to pass this over to Jonathan from Sinch. Jonathan, thanks for being with us today. I would love to hear your perspective on 10DLC and how Sinch has approached the rollout, and anything else that you would like to add. We'd appreciate that, Jonathan.
Sure. So Sinch has been involved and invested in 10DLC since the early carrier trials. So it's been our blessing and headache from the beginning. And I'd say that we're finally seeing some real progress and support from the MNOs. I think everybody can finally take a little bit of a breath and note that 10DLC is working. Stefan's earlier question about MMS. I mean, what I would say is that early on when we looked to adaptation, we had a lot of tickets, a lot of problems. And most of these were solved with two real issues we saw, and that was sender and recipient based throttling that's in place. And that's the sender or 10-digit number allowed to transmit so many messages per second or per day, and then how many a typical user could receive them. The latter being a more rare situation. And we actually had to build APIs and solve this for our customers to throttle that. So these are kind of things that we had to jump through hoops to resort to. But the answer to that question is that I don't see those tickets anymore. I only see issues with campaigns that still don't have the right capacity in place, or we have to do modifications to the campaign type to match it up correctly. But most of that's been solved. So real good progress there. On our front ends, what we offer, we have three real ways that we offer 10DLC to customers, and I think most folks out there in this space do that. We have our strategic and enterprise clients where they come on board and they get kind of white glove treatment. These are the Fortune 10 companies that are out there. We'll build special things for them. We'll break rules and make things happen. But I think most people now today, competitors in the space and Sinch as well, have a dashboard experience where you can go in and you can pick numbers you want out of there. You can submit campaigns. It takes all those campaigns and files them on the back end through APIs. And this is registrations through net number, does the vetting through partners like Aegis and WMC, and then comes back with those scores, plugs it into the carrier networks, and you're ready to run in the same day. Now, you still got to, there's some exceptions if you want higher throughput or special vetting components that we're looking at, or if you misfile it, where we've got to go back and fix things. So it's real important that the folks that are in this space do educate themselves on what needs to happen. They need to understand timelines. They need to understand and right size the campaign for what they're filing to make sure it fits in all the buckets so they get the throughput they want. And then they need to ask questions about MMS and those kinds of things and filtering that still exists today. You could still, for example, have some issues with URL shorteners if you're not tying it to your domain. So some of these things kind of help solve the problems that become a ticket by going through the right onboarding process with your customer to begin with. And then last, I think the other onboarding experience is account managers, where we still have folks that are dealing with accounts and they're in a hybrid situation, and we kind of manage a lot of that process for them as an existing account. So I think the state of the union is that 10DLC's come a long way, and it really is working. The carriers are still addressing some of the throughput limitations like MMS. There's still new use cases like UCAS and some of these particulars that operate in OTT or P2P space that we need to solve for. So we're working, as everybody is, to try to get these things resolved. And TCR is the driving force to help the carriers and with this. But 10DLC is really making some great progress. So I think as we look into political messaging space in the future, to be able to accommodate those volumes, I think it would be help all of us if we really understand how much we're going to see coming forward. And we know it's going to be big, but just how big? How many people were turned off from it? How many people saw the impacts working? Because we all know text messaging works, but I think that would help a lot of us kind of set right size the what we're going to see next year, because the carriers always ask their direct connected aggregator partners for forecasts. So by better understanding that, if I had to ask for anything from the greater audience, it's that when we understand this in advance, we can help get the carrier networks built to be able to provide that kind of accommodation for us in the future.